Hello and welcome to MAGA, the podcast. Now, this is not your racist uncle's MAGA. Our MAGA stands for I'm an angry asshole, the cult of Donald Trump. And I am your host, the disgusted American. Our mission is to show how Don the Con bamboozled our nation. Our goal is to help make sure the cult of MAGA goes down in flames by 2028. To stop it before MAGA becomes unstoppable and our democracy further decays into a dictatorship. If we want the cult of MAGA to end, we have to know how it began and why it spread. We have to go back to Trump 1.0, the election of 2016. So in our last episode, we explored the modern history of celebrity, going back to Queen Victoria. We looked at the importance of celebrity in American culture and the political Hunger Games of 2016. We explored the value of being the girl on fire to build a fan base and attract donors before the games even began. And we really kind of thought about and looked through this lens of American worship of celebrities and Trump being a huge celebrity for over 40 years. So in this episode, we're going to take a look at how did Trump leverage his celebrity to create a seemingly untouchable legend. We're going to explore the reality of Donald J. Trump versus the legend of the Donald. And we're going to take a look at the legend of the Donald by looking at another legend that grew once upon a time in America. We're talking about the Monopoly Man. The original game was patented in 1903 by a brilliant and political radical named Lizzie Magie. It was originally called the Landlord's Game. Her version actually had two variations of gameplay. There's the one in which players competed to capture as much real estate and cash as possible, the Monopoly version that perhaps we all know, but there was also another version of the game, one in which the point of the game was to share wealth as equitably as possible. The Landlord Game was actually developed to offer a critical look at social injustices around property ownership and economic equality in the United States. Lizzie herself said, "Let the children once see clearly the gross injustice of our present land system, and when they grow up, if they are allowed to develop naturally, the evil will soon be remedied." The express intent was to demonstrate the evils of accruing vast sums of wealth at the expense of others. Lizzie would also declare, in a short time, I hope, a very short time, men and women will discover that they are poor because Carnegie and Rockefeller maybe have more than they know what to do with. She saw these massive wealth disparities between the working class and this class of men, known then as the robber barons. Right now, perhaps looking at things like Silicon Valley and all the billionaire class, right? The 1%. Same thing, different era. So she set out to craft a message that was not in favor of unrestrained capitalism, but was in fact a warning against the dangers of unchecked power and wealth accumulation. The second set of rules, the second version of this game, was meant to highlight the moral superiority over the first set. But that's not how things played out in the arc of history. It was the pro-capitalist and individualist version of the game that won out in the public imagination. So ironically, this game that was originally designed to be a critique of unfettered market economics became an emblem of capitalistic competition. So why? Why did this happen? Well, like many times in history, a brilliant woman got run over by a scheming man. So in the 1930s, this guy named Charles Darrow, without altering the rules in any meaningful way, redesigned the board for the original Landlord's Game with an illustrator named Franklin Alexander. And he struck deals to sell the game through Wanamaker's department store in Philadelphia and through FAO Schwartz. The artist, Franklin Alexander, who designed the iconic mascot that we know as the Monopoly Man, along with Jake the Jailbird and Officer Edgar Mallory, the guy that sent you to jail. Well, when Parker Brothers purchased the rights to what was now called Monopoly in 1935, this original artist who did all this iconic work was cut out of the profits and never received a penny. In the promotion of the game, the Parker Brothers told this Horatio Alger story of Charles B. Darrow, a rags to riches loan genius. Before long, Darrow sold the game to Parker Brothers in a deal that would make him a multi-millionaire. And years later, Lizzie, who actually invented the game, got $500. The Monopoly story gets even weirder when we consider the game's mascot. He may be known more commonly as the Monopoly Man, but he also has a name. His name is Rich Uncle Pennybags. And he was first featured in the Monopoly game in 1936. He was inspired by the American banker J.P. Morgan. And when we see him, he's depicted as a portly older gentleman in a morning suit, bow tie, and top hat. He's often associated with capitalism, greed, and wealth. The ironic thing about Rich Uncle Pennybags is if he had been a real person when this game became popular in the 1930s, he probably would have gotten wiped out. Because one of the main causes of the Great Depression was rampant speculation, which is what Monopoly was all about. And in fact, this game being released in the middle of the Great Depression was very confusing to a lot of folks. Why, in a time of great financial despair, would family and friends want to gather around and swap cash and real estate? Well, the answer tells you a lot about America, because the game not only provided cheap entertainment, it offered a psychological elixir. It gave people the feeling of wealth. It gave folks a chance for individual gain. People who didn't have the money, they could come play this game, and for 2 or 3 hours, you could feel like you're rich. Rich Uncle Pennybags is an important type of American hero. And he's important to understand the American psyche.
It's remarkable that this game took off on the back end of the Great Depression. Why would people want to play a game about accumulating wealth after most of them had lived in abject poverty for years? I think part of the reason is wish fulfillment. What better fantasy to have during and after the Great Depression than being able to be in a position of power and being able to accumulate mass wealth when you know you'll never be able to do that in your own life?
Monopoly is a quintessential American game by virtue of how it plays. Everyone, regardless of your race, religion, or creed, starts off with the same amount of money.
Everybody has a fair chance. Everyone collects $200 when they pass go. Everyone has the opportunity to purchase. All of these things are baked in.
Monopoly creates a very false sense of, well, we all started off equally, and if I've got ahead, it must be my skill, it must be my hard work.
I got you, John. That'll be $100.
When actually, in real life, we do not start on that same starting line.
Monopoly makes it easy to imagine that you can, accomplish your goals, accomplish your vision. You can start a business and you don't have to think about what you look like, where you come from, that you're from a different class, from a different race, have a different gender expression. You don't have to think about any of that at all, right? And that is the problem and the myth that Monopoly continues to just push forward.
People want to live like Rich Uncle Pennybags. And if we can't, we want to live vicariously through somebody like him. Someone with big money, big cars, a baller, girls, fame, power, tailored suits. Maybe someone we see on TV for many years, in the movies, on talk shows, and even his own show where he was the boss and he had it all. And people competed for his attention. Americans worship money. It's a proxy for social worth. It's a proxy for intelligence, competence, status. This is from a TV show in 1984.
Get ready for another Aces High Lifestyles, your VIP journey into the lives and loves of today's lucky winners who hit the jackpot in life's Wheel of Fortune.
For those of you who don't recognize it, that is the theme from Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, which ran on TV for years. Americans worship money. If you are famous and you are rich, you are an American god. So what does this have to do with Donald J. Trump? Well, like Charles Darrow, who stole the game from Lizzie Maggie, Donald Trump built a legend based on bullshit. The reality of Donald J. Trump is pretty awful. He is a traitor. He incited an insurrection against our country on January 6th. A bunch of his supporters beat and terrorized cops defending our Capitol. Five police officers eventually died from the events of that horrible day. Officer Brian Sicknick suffered 2 strokes nearly 8 hours after being sprayed with a chemical irritant during the riot. And 4 cops later committed suicide due to PTSD from that day. And what did Trump do? He pardoned the people that did it. In fact, he recently gave the family of one of these traitors over $30 million of taxpayer money. He also ran a fraudulent charitable foundation. Starting in 2016, the Washington Post began reporting how this foundation raised and granted money.
We started looking at Trump's charitable foundation back in 2016 during the presidential campaign, and what we found basically by looking through old charity records, by calling people that had gotten money from Trump's foundation, was that he had tended to treat the foundation, which by law is an independent entity with its own board of directors, its own goals, its own money. It's separate from him. He had tended to treat it as just a checkbook for himself.
Trump used the foundation to buy self-portraits, pay off his business's legal obligations, and boost his presidential campaign. He lost this case, and the Trump Foundation was ordered to close, and he had to pay over $2 million in damages. He has a history of sexism, sexual violence, and racism.
A jury in New York finding Donald Trump, the Republican presidential frontrunner by far, liable for sexually abusing and defaming writer E. Jean Carroll.
He recently lost 2 court cases against E. Jean Carroll for sexual abuse and defamation, resulting in a total of $88.3 million in damages being awarded to Carroll. In October 2024, Stacey Williams became the 27th woman to accuse Trump of sexual misconduct. On the racism front, he just allowed a bunch of white South Africans to jump the immigration line ahead of thousands of people who've been waiting for years to enter the United States, including heroes that put their lives and their families' lives at risk to help us in Afghanistan and Iraq. Not to mention our president as a felon.
We've got a verdict. Ari Melber.
We are looking at count 1, guilty. Count 2, guilty. Count 3, guilty. Count 4, guilty. Count 5, guilty.
34 times to be exact. Our president is a 34-time felon. Him and his legal entities have been involved in more than 4,000 legal actions, lawsuits to and from. He has a history of failures in terms of his businesses. Trump Shuttle, Trump University, Trump Vodka, Trump Mortgage LLC, Trump Steaks, GoTrump.com, a travel site that lasted for about 8 minutes. 6 bankruptcies, including casinos, which are literally designed not to lose money. And he lost. He went bankrupt. So Donald J. Trump, the person, is a fucking mess. But Donald J. Trump is not the person a lot of people see when they look at this man. Instead, they see the legend, the Donald. This legend took many years to put together. You look at the art of the deal, and it expanded Trump's renown way beyond New York City. This book promoted an image of Trump as a successful deal maker. Here he is in a TV appearance on Spin City.
Listen, I have kind of a pressing appointment, but I thought you might run into a roadblock, so I asked someone to drop by. Oh, Mike? Sir? No. Donald. Mr. Trump here wrote The Art of the Deal. Then he wrote a new bestseller, The Art of the Comeback.
2 books. Wow. Well, sit down. Well, that must have been tough, coming up with that much material.
No.
It's been hard getting started, though, right?
First day, 9 chapters.
It was later revealed that Tony Schwartz wrote the entire book. Trump didn't write a word. Here's what he had to say about the book and Trump.
Do you regret the book? Greatest regret of my life, without question. I wish the book weren't even in print. And, you know, I've spent 2.5 years now, after not speaking about the book for 30 years, once Trump began to run, I've spent 2.5 years out there trying to warn people about who this man is. And yeah, it's something I can't ever really fully make right.
Is that your obligation, though? I mean, you were a ghostwriter. You got covered. You got credit on the book cover, jacket. You did all the things you're supposed to do as a writer. You took a contract. You got paid. In the sense, you did everything correctly. What's the core of this regret?
That I knew this was a bad guy when I did the book. I had just some few months earlier written a piece about him as a staff writer at New York Magazine, which is where I was, called The Cold War on 100 Central Park South, about his attempts to push rent control and rent stabilized tenants out of a building in a very luxurious location so he could transform it into a luxury condo and make a lot of money. And in reporting that piece, it was very clear to me that this was a guy who lacked ethics and was willing to push the envelope very, very intensely when it came to the law. And I should have, in retrospect, I should have made that enough of a reason to have said no when I got the opportunity to do the book.
Another cameo on The Nanny?
Love, you met when I came here. Hi, Donnie. Donald Trump, I'd like you to meet... Oh, what am I talking about? All you handsome zillionaires know each other.
All of these TV show appearances, movies, talk show appearances, books, his time in wrestling, he always portrayed the same character. The modern Monopoly man, the Donald. And again, before social media, TV was the best way to connect with a mass audience in America. And his carefully crafted appearances showed you what he was actually interested in, what he was good at, molding public opinion of himself better than perhaps anyone else. Long before he ran for president, Trump knew the power of TV, popping up on screen as a wildly successful tycoon who earned his arrogance. And making these appearances repeatedly made the Donald more relevant to many Americans than any journalistic report about his actual triumphs and failures ever could. Remember, repetition makes people believe that something is true. And Trump repeated the same bullshit story for decades. The string of closely monitored cameos may have seemed like nothing more than brand building, like any businessman would do, but it accomplished two stunning things. First, it convinced U.S. viewers that Trump was a wildly successful businessman, oozing with star quality. And second, these appearances served as Trump's audition tape for his reality show, The Apprentice. The Apprentice allowed him to depict himself as the ultimate businessman on primetime network TV for 14 seasons. It cemented the image of the Donald, made it impossible to shake. In fact, here's Donald Trump's intro to the first season of The Apprentice.
My name's Donald Trump, and I'm the largest real estate developer in New York. I own buildings all over the place, model agencies, the Miss Universe pageant, jetliners, golf courses, casinos, and private resorts like Mar-a-Lago, one of the most spectacular estates anywhere in the world.
You can see the legend of the Donald being created and molded into the minds of Americans. The Apprentice allowed Trump to play a version of himself, the Donald, a wildly successful boss with dozens of young, attractive applicants begging for his approval. The Apprentice transformed him from a New York City tabloid person into a red state TV star. And then finally, in terms of life imitating art, this happened in 1989.
Everything's set for tonight, Mr. Trump. I wonder what Trump's game is this time. Trump's got a new game. Trump's got a new deal. What's your game, Donald? Trump has a new game. What is it? Is it an airline? A new convention center, Mr. Trump. Is it a convention center? Mr. Trump, please. My new game is Trump, the game. Trump, the game where you deal for everything you ever wanted to own. Because it's not whether you win or lose. It's whether you win. Yes. Play Trump, the game from Milton Bradley. I think you'll like it.
Trump actually created a game that ripped off Monopoly. Is there any better indication that he was the modern day rich Uncle Pennybags? So in this episode, we explored how Donald J. Trump created the legend of the Donald. Now, the man who in real life is a horrible mess created this persona where he's brash, outspoken, successful, a real estate tycoon, and a straight shooter. The ultimate embodiment of American success and vigor. A great man that can make America great again. This was the essence of his 2016 campaign. And it was all based on the legend of the Donald and not the nightmare that is the real Donald J. Trump. So next week, we're going to take a look at the third and final ingredient of Trump's pre-Hunger Games secret sauce. The traits that he possessed at the beginning of the political Hunger Games of 2016 that gave him a huge advantage. And a hint on this third trait, it involved Donald Trump shaving another man bald. So that's all we've got for this week. If you want to help out the channel, please subscribe or follow us on your favorite podcasting platform and tell your fellow disgusted Americans where they can find us so they can give us a listen. If you have a moment, please leave us a rating on your platform of choice so more folks can find the show. New episodes drop every Wednesday. It's been a pleasure. See you again next week. Have a great night, folks. Ciao, bacalao.